So Brian here with Life Reimagined. We get a lot of questions about what kind of items you need as you start out as a new RVer. A lot of people get into this life, never RV'd before, so they really don't know what it's into. So we're doing this video to give you some basic ideas of some things that are really helpful, some must-haves, some things that just make life a lot easier. Part of this video is even going to contain the full setup. You'll see us backing in, hooking up the sewer. I personally have a big advantage because I have my own dedicated sanitation engineer. It's called an 18-year-old son. That makes things a lot easier. I highly suggest investing in one of those. But I want to go over some of the other items that I think you really need. Number one, chocks when you back up. I like these big, heavy rubber chocks because if you're backing up on pavement, if you have those plastic ones and you hook them up, they tend to slide. These will not slide. They grab good. They hold well. They're a lot heavier. You can put a string on them, carry them. Highly recommend those. Also, they usually come in packs of 8 or 10, I think. These are great to put under your jack stands. If you need to level a table, just about anything. We use them all the time because, believe it or not, all campgrounds are not level. So you're going to have to adjust to that. I also recommend carrying a couple boards. We use some treated old decking boards or 2x6s that are great to keep. If you ever plan on being in a cold weather climate, which, you know, there are places, we try to stay in warm weather, but there are times that it's going to get below freezing. Your biggest thing is heated water line. So this is a heated tape that basically goes along your water line. It keeps your water from freezing so you can get water. I also recommend, if you think you're going to be in a freezing thing, keep water in your tank. A lot of the campers have heated tanks, or it's at least enclosed there a little bit so it won't freeze. So if this line does freeze, at least you still have some water you can use in the camp. Another must-have item for me, walkie-talkies. If you've ever seen the shirt that says, "I'm sorry for what I said while we were backing in," these will eliminate that. I do believe that divorces have happened over backing in the camper. So these are great because you put one person in the truck, one in the person backing you up. I actually have 4 of these, so if I have a person on either side I can hear. These will save your marriage. They will save you a lot of headache and time. A lot of people say they use their cell phones, but I do go places sometimes that my cell phone does not work. The walkie-talkies always work. We take 2 cars a lot of places. We even keep those to talk back and forth car to car. Makes life a lot simpler. The arc shells are pretty good. We've tested them. We get about a 3-mile radius out of them, which is pretty good. We'll put a link to that and to all these items that I'm talking about in the description below so you can check them out. Another thing, we walk away from the camper sometimes. Sometimes we'll go visit someone for a day or two, walk away. If you have some valuable items that you leave at the camper, i.e. your bikes or a high-dollar chair or something, we use these things all the time. Bike lock or a security lock. We have 3 or 4 of them. We got them all to where the keys match. We use them constantly. I personally have not had a problem at a campground. People are typically pretty safe. I have never had anything stolen, but it does happen. So if a thief really wants it, they're going to take it. But if you can deter them, a lot of times they'll move on to the next thing because it's just not easy. The extension cords. Man, you got to have some good extension cords. I like these that have 3 prongs on them because if you're cooking outside on an electric skillet or something, sometimes you'll overload the breakers on the camper. I run these directly to the power box. I can power 2 skillets. Doesn't affect the camper, and great. So I recommend 50, 75 foot cord with those. And on the electrical front, I use these little crates to store stuff. So I have a water crate, I have a sewer crate, I have an electrical crate. Well, there's a lot of times you're going to pull in, and we're a 50 amp camper, but there's a lot of times you might pull in and you're only going to have a 30 amp hookup. So we have dog bones for about every occasion. We have a 30 amp to a 50 amp. We have a 30 to a 20. We have a 30 to a 50. And then we even have a 20 to a 30 adapter. So I have adapters for about everything. You will need these. You will use them. I do recommend getting these. Amazon's a great place. Tractor Supply sells them as well. And I also put some links down below. And also, I have an adapter, so if I have 1 cord, again, that's that fancy 3-prong. Keep you some extra supplies. Now, one thing that I use constantly. We have bikes, if you have your tires a little low. This thing is great. I bought this at Harbor Freight. It's a 4-in-1 thing. It's a jump box. It's an air compressor. It goes to 120 psi, so it will pump up your tires even if you need 80 psi. It works awesome. I use it all the time. It even has little USB charger ports. Guys, this is a must. I keep this behind the seat in the truck, which is really easy to get to. Use it more than you think, and I've helped more people using this. Get one of these. It's sort of one of those safety emergency items. The other thing, talking about safety emergency of a truck, fire extinguisher. Guys, every camper comes with one. Put one in your truck. If you have a fire, this is what you want to do. I keep this right under the seat. I've seen people that had their cars pull on the side of the road, have fires, and people be able to pull up and put it out with one of these. Fire extinguisher in the truck as well as the camper, because these campers will go up fast if there's a problem. You want to be prepared. One other thing I bought at Harbor Freight that I just love, and we use it way more than I ever thought, is a 2.5 gallon wet dry vac. We use this for everything. I use it to clean out the cars. We use it to vacuum the camper sometimes. We use it to clean up stuff. I spent $27 for this thing, and I promise you I have got more than $500 of value out of it. We use it all the time. Doesn't take up a whole lot of space, and it's great. So I highly recommend that as well. Also, a couple of things that we see new campers make a lot of mistakes on. Guys, awnings. Almost every week I can get on a full-time family member site or full-time RVing site and see where someone's awning has got ripped off their camper. Here's my rule for awnings. If the wind is blowing probably more than 10 miles an hour, put it in. Okay, it's not worth it. Most of the time in the summer, most places, we've been in Colorado, we've been in Florida, we've been in Mississippi. Storms pop up out of nowhere and fast. And you got a storm pop up with 30, 40 mile per hour winds, your awning is gone. So we always pay attention to the weather. The other thing is, if we leave the camper for any reason, we put the awnings in, because we've seen storms pop up so quick. Just the other day in the campground, guy left for an hour to go to lunch, didn't put his awning in, big storm came up out of nowhere, he lost his awning. And these awnings, the fabric alone can be $400 to $700, $400 to $1,000. If it rips off the arms and all, you could be looking as much as $3,000 or $4,000 to fix that. Just put them in. It's not that much headache, and it will save you thousands of dollars. Another item, sort of a luxury item I like. Guys, I'm a camper. I love fires, but you can't always have a fire. Not every campground allows it. Sometimes it's just a little too windy. So my wife and I bought this. We love this thing. It's an Outlander firebolt. Comes with a strap, 10-foot cord, lava rocks. This is great because it doesn't produce any smoke. Even if it's a little windy, we can still sit out by the fire, light it. We have a 20-pound propane tank that we set 10 foot away. We hook up the hose. It's adjustable. You can raise and lower the flame, but it still gives us that great fire feeling without the smoke, without the mess. And most campgrounds will allow this even when they won't allow wood fire, just because of fire hazards or too windy, or if you're too close, you don't want to be smoking up someone else's camper. One of my favorite items. So one of the other real big points that we have, and I see a lot of mistakes new RVers make, is tires. Guys, tires are your #1 safety thing on a vehicle and your camper. Your tires on your truck better be a minimum of 10 ply when you're towing. And I don't care if you're towing a 5,000 pound camper or a 22,000 pound camper. 10 ply minimum. Also on the camper, if you buy a new camper or used camper, check the tires. If the tires are older than about 6 years, they could have some dry rot problems. You want to get them replaced. If the tires are not at least a 10 ply on the camper, you want to replace them, especially if the camper is above 8,000 pounds. So my rule is 8,000 pounds or above, I want a 10 ply, 12,000 pounds or above, I want a 12 ply tire. These things, when they blow, they will tear your camper up. If you spend the money up front, get a really nice tire on it, you will not have a problem compared to those little 6 ply tires that they try to put on from the factory. One of the other things that I highly recommend is called a tire pressure monitor system. I recommend them for the truck, I recommend them for the camper, because then you can give a warning if you got a tire going low. So it will works wirelessly back to the truck. It will tell you if the air pressure is getting low, if something's going on, so you can catch it before you actually have that blowout and you're sitting on the side of the road trying to jack that up and fix it. And speaking of jacking up and fix it, one of the other things, speaking of the possibility of flats, when you work on your camper, if you ever have a flat, Anderson makes one, Camco makes one. These are really great because on a dual axle camper, if you have a flat on one, you can roll the other tire up. When it's rolled up, it will get that tire off the ground where you actually don't have to jack it up. Save you a lot of time, headaches, and elbow grease. Get some of these. Anderson makes a good one. It's a little bit longer, a little more expensive. Camco makes one. They all work. Invest in one of these because it will save you some headaches as well. Let's talk a little bit about the different kind of hitches and safety as far as hitches. For fifth wheels, they have the standard ones. They have slider ones like this one here. The slider ones are made for shorter than 8-foot beds, so that when you can turn, this can slide and give you more maneuverability. They have gooseneck adapter hitches. They have Anderson reverse hitches that go to a ball. Because all of these, I think, are fine hitches. I personally like this one. I've had the Anderson hitches. I've had the pull right hitches that go to pyramids or lighter. Those are beneficial because you can take them in and out easier. Where this one is a two-person job to get it out. But it gives me a lot more stability. So I'm toting a 16,000-pound camper. I don't want to use the cheapest hitch I could find on the market to be toting my house around and 16,000 pounds behind me. Make sure you get it mounted right. Spend the money and get a little nicer hitch. It makes the ride better. It makes it a lot more stable. If you have a short bed, I recommend a slider. You don't absolutely have to have one. Truthfully, I've only engaged a slider one time since I had it because I don't ever turn so sharp that I need it. But there are places, and there will be in the future, where I'm going to have to back in and turn at 90 degrees, so I'm going to need to gauge that slider. If you're pulling a travel trailer, please make sure you get a good hitch. Make sure you get sway control, a sway brake. There's some really good hitches out there on the market. You just don't want to find the cheapest thing you can to hook and tow your house or tow your camper and your belongings. Especially with travel trailers, there's too many of those that we see people don't have sway control on them. You see them going down the road, flip over. You're not going to have that problem as much with a fifth wheel, but I just can't stress enough importance about good hitches, sway control, and sway brakes, especially for the travel trailers. All right, so one of the other things I think is a must when you start full-time or take a travel trailer is tools. You need a really good socket set. I personally would recommend a socket that would fit just about every socket on your camper, especially if you're a little handy. Screwdrivers, wrenches, a drill set. We use these tools more than you could imagine. We use for everything. So get you a really good tool set, keep it organized, get one of the real nice boxes. My son is very, very good about making sure his tools get back. You want some metric, you want some standard, you want 3/8 inch drive, you want 1/4 inch drive, you want 1/2 inch drive, you want some extensions, you want some bigger ones, you don't want some inch and 1/8 sockets, because you do use those. I mean, we've been on the road 9 months, we use them all the time. So I can't express enough again the importance of having some handy tools to do stuff, because even if you don't know how to use them, most likely in a campground there's someone there that is willing to help, because that's just the way campers are. Another favorite of mine is the Furrion backup camera. The reason this is a favorite of mine is not so much because it helps me back up the camper, but more so when I'm going down the road, this stays on, and it's a camera that lets me see behind me. I can see when a car is coming up on me. I can see in the lane beside me if I've got plenty of clearance to get over. I can make sure the bikes are okay on the back. It is way more useful to me as a rear view camera that's running all the time when I'm towing versus just a backup camera. It's worth the $350 to $400 investment. Most campers are pre-wired for it. Put it on there. It's great. quick tip for you. You can buy these rubber mats for like 50 bucks for 4 of them. Or you can do what I did, go to Tractor Supply, buy one of the horse stall mats for 25 bucks, cut it, put a hole in string, and then I have rubber mats for all my stuff, and I spent 25 bucks. So, we put rubber mats under everything. We also make sure we chock the tires. I like the big heavy rubber chocks because they tend to hold better than the plastic ones, especially on concrete. The plastic ones will slide. Another important tip, we always lock all the doors when you're in motion because you never want a chance of one coming open. So this is the greatest thing that campers ever invented, the electronic leveling system. So we're just bring our front jacks down. One of the important things when you do front jacks, especially when you look level, you need enough of the electronic jack to come down so it can adjust and level itself, because if you just drop it manually all the way down, then it might not have enough room to go up and down. Alright, so this Lippert electronic leveling system, the cool thing about it is that you just hit auto level and it will go to work. It puts the front ones down first, puts them up, realize where stuff is, we'll put the back ones down, the middle ones down, and does it. So while it's doing that, we can go hook up the electric, the water, the sewer, everything, because it's working on itself. Surge protection is a must. I've seen too many campers get fried without a surge protector at campgrounds. When the electricals go bad, breakers go bad, bad things can happen. Always make sure your breaker's off before you plug anything in. Blue and green means good. So I also store my water and sewer stuff in these Husky bins. They're great. They stack on top of each other, so they're great for storage, and it'll keep the sewer stuff with the sewer stuff and the water stuff with the water stuff. Brandon is my sewer man. That's why he's got the glove on. Okay, so one thing we're going to have to do, when you're going down the road, a lot of stuff shakes loose. So as he takes this off, we always hold a hose right underneath of it just in case. That's why we hook it up to the tank before. There you go. And that's the reason we wear the gloves. Because stuff will shake loose coming down the road. In this case, a lot. So you don't want to just dump that on the ground, so you're careful with it. Now, the other thing a lot of people don't do is, so he's going to go ahead and dump that out. We put a little dip in, we put a dip here in the line. So what this does is it works like an S-trap. When you drain, this fills with water and it prevents the odors and smells and flies from the septic tank of getting back up into the camper. So this cuts down on odors and what they call sewer flies. Just by doing this, big step, most people don't do it. I see it all the time. It will save you a lot of headache and smells in the camper. So when we hook the water, I love this Y adapter, Harbor Freight, $4 or $5, because a lot of times I want to hook a separate hose to spray something off, clean something out. It's a must. This is the other thing I see a lot of newbies start out they don't do. you have to have a pressure regulator. I've been at campgrounds where it's 150 psi. If you put 150 psi into your camper, it is likely to blow a line inside the camper. Leak inside the camper is not what you want. These are about $5 or $6 at Walmart, Camping World, anywhere. Get one. I keep two just in case one goes bad. I always want to have a backup because I don't want to have to be dealing with that if I'm pulling into a campground late. And the arrow tells you which way the water should flow. Filter. Some campers have big, nice water filtration system in. We buy these. It's supposed to last about 90 days. We hook that up. And we're already set up for city water here. This will let me set up for city water, dry camping, whatever we need. We're ready here. Aiden, will you turn that water on? And I just want to make sure I'm not leaking here or here, because you don't want to be dripping inside the camper. And water is in on. Can I show this guy? Yeah. Okay. All right, a neat trick that we've learned is one way, especially at campgrounds with grass, and to prevent someone from cutting my cords and my hoses, as I buy a gutter, do this, run the stuff inside the gutter. Keeps everything nice and tight, and that way if someone comes over with a weed eater, they're not cutting my cords. And that cord is $300, and I just don't like replacing hoses, so we'll run it all right inside there. Alright, love these stairs more than the ones that fold out underneath. They're just a lot sturdier. They work well too, they're easy to adjust.
When there's stuff on the floor,
so Aiden will slide in to make sure there's nothing in the way of the slides as they're getting pulled out. Precautionary. Get something under that slide and it goes out, it can tear up your floor, mess up the slide. So one of the other things I do is after I have the water hooked up, I come back in and turn on the electric water heater, because if not, someone will go to take a shower tonight and there'll be cold water and they're going to have to wait 20 or 30 minutes to the water to heat up. So, as a point to anything can happen is, when we went to put out the awnings and kick on the hot water heater, nothing worked. Go down, check the fuse panel, we could see that our panel fuse had blown for some reason. We keep extra fuses of every size in a box because stuff like that happens. Not a big deal, we saw it, put a new 15 amp fuse in, everything's working. Alright, so I covered a lot of information in that video, and I touched base really quickly on a lot of different subjects. Hopefully it's just give you a quick overview of some stuff, or more specific things on any other item I talked about. I'm glad to do a more in-depth video. Leave a comment, let me know. I'd be glad to help you out and do a more in-depth video on it. But for now, I hope you enjoyed. This is Brian from Life ReImagined. Safe travels.